I know it's not the service everybody wants, but it's the service a lot of people want, and every church that I know of does this. A contemporary service and a more praise service. Let us pray. Oh God, may the words of my mouth come. Amen. I will say a few things later on, but I wanted to say that this service is something that Ken was looking forward to, and a lot of others were, and we thought it would never work, not in this church. And a lot of people told us that, but here we are. Another thing I know that Ken did while I was here, and it's been improved a little bit, but was he redid the choir loft. And the trustees at the time, some of you may still be in the service, I don't know, but they said, don't touch the choir loft, it's fine the way it is. And we came in one day, and there was Ken ripping everything apart. And the trustee says, who gave you permission to do that? And he said, I just want it done. And he did it. And it's thankful to Ken for many things that have happened in this church. But I want to digress a little bit and go back to my time as a child, and then we'll bring you up quickly to this time. I grew up on a small farm, as many of you remember, in western New York. I knew that a penny was worth a penny, even as a small child. After all, my dad gave me 1 penny for every time I weeded a row of carrots. Each row took about 45 minutes. So about 5, maybe 6 was a good day to have done my job. And I had sisters and brothers, and we had foster children with us, and they did their share as well. But each row took about 45 minutes. It wasn't all that long, but the carrots were about that high, and so were the weeds were about that high. So we had to get the weeds out and try to find it and leave the carrot so it would grow. Well, at the end of the day, I usually was happy to receive my pennies for the day. My dad sat in an old green Adirondack chair underneath the sweet cherry tree, and he had stacks of pennies. He knew how many each one of us had rolled that day. And so he counted them out, and when I got there, he said, you did 6 rows today, right? And I said, yes. And he said, here's your pay. And I got 6 pennies. He knew how many rows each of us weeded. But my sisters, my brother, and the foster children living with us at the time, we wanted to go to the farm, or to the town, which was about 6 miles away, a long ways away at that time. And they wanted to spend their money to buy a soda pop or a penny candy. Most of the time, I would just put it in a piggy bank and say, I'm going to save that for a later day. Because nobody in my family went on to college. But I had a dream that I might someday go to college so I get a good job and work hard and make lots of money like all of you did. Well, I worked hard. We stop at that. Not only did I not spend my earnings, but I would scrounge around the dumps. At those days, we loaded the truck up every so often and took the garbage to the trunk. Whatever we couldn't burn went down to the swamp area and dumped it. Well, a lot of other people did too. So every time we went down there, I would scrounge around to see what was there that was of value. And I'd pick it up and bring it back home. And my dad said, what do you bring that home for? That's junk. And I said, well, it may be junk to you, but it's good stuff to me. So I did not spend my money. I saved things from the dumps, sometimes gave them to somebody, sometimes made a few pennies out of them, sold them to somebody else. But that's good stuff, and that's what started my journey, all that good stuff that I kept getting. It came time that I grew up, and it's time to go to college. And as I went off to college, my mother wanted to know what to do with all that stuff that was in the closet and in my bedroom. And I said, don't let my sisters or my brother or any of the foster kids touch that stuff. It's good. I had stacks of Boys Life, Field and Stream, junior book club that I joined. Did spend some money on books. I always liked books. Liked to look at them on the shelf. I thought it looked real nice. Read one of them, I think. Then I had a stack of comic books. Some were mine, some had been my brother's. He didn't want any more. And I said, don't touch that stuff. Someday it's going to be worth some money. Well, I went off to college, came home, and my room was full of stuff that I'd left behind. And it came time for Jane and I to get married, and we were going to head from New York to Georgia. I was going to go to seminary down there, and she was going to work in the business department to help get me through school. Well, we loaded all the necessities, all of her stuff she needed and stuff I needed got to be pretty small. We didn't have much money those days, so we packed that into a 4x6 U-Haul, which isn't very big, 4 feet by 6 feet, or 4 feet by 6 feet, whichever way it was. Hooked that up to our Chevy 2 Chevy, hoping it would tear it all the way down, and when time came time to come back and do it all the way back. We went down there in that 4x6, and we didn't have to take any furniture because we rented a house that had furniture in it. So I attended seminary, but long story short, I was there 7 months and didn't like what was going on at the time in the 60s. And so we decided to pack our stuff and head back home. We'd only been there 7 months, but we couldn't get it on a 4x6. All that stuff. We had to go into a 5x7. It wasn't quite full, but we got managed. Well, as time went on, we moved from church to church, and I would give away some really good stuff. I gave away my comic books, of all things. Probably worth some money today. I can only imagine how much those boys' lives and old comic books might be worth today. Not the books so much. But fast forward now to 2011, the year I retired after 39 years in ordained ministry. As we packed, I could throw away. I couldn't throw away much. I said, "We don't need this, do we?" Jane would say, "Yeah, I think we ought to save it." And she'd say, "We don't need this, do we?" I said, "Yeah, I think we ought to save it." You know how it goes, back and forth. So it accumulated between the two of us probably, I don't know, 1,000, 1,200 books, because we both loved books. And we decided we didn't need to move all of that stuff. So we got rid of, I left a lot of books here for the library, which probably got thrown out because they were so old at that time. Gave some to the library across the street, and gave away about 470, 480 books, and still had boxes and boxes of books to go with us. Well, before we came here, I was very happy serving the church I served. And the bishop said, "You're going to go to Sun City West." And I said, "No, I'm going to retire in 2 years, and I got 2 years of things to do here, and I'm going to retire." He said, "You're never going to retire. I need you to go to Sun City West. You're going." Well, a lot of my colleagues said, "Don't listen to her. Do what you want to do." And I said, "You can't say no to the bishop." So finally, I gave in and decided I had to come. I knew what was going on here at the time. Some of you remember as well. And I didn't want to come to this. I was happy where it was. Well, when I came, first of all, there's a couple, I won't mention names, but a couple came to that church my last Sunday. He says, "Welcome to our church." He says, "We're here to check you out, and you're going to be okay." So that was good news. I had one couple that thought I was going to make it all right at this church. So we started packing, and when I came to this church and was introduced to the Staff Parish Relations Committee, the things I remember was, don't unpack your suitcase if you plan on putting those on the board. Don't come to this church if you're going to do weddings that are not weddings, if they're not sanctioned by the state. We don't want to do just those types of marriages. So many other things. Don't do this, don't do that. So I came to a church that sounded like it was full of don'ts. So I said, "I won't touch anything for 6 months." That's about 6 months, and one day later, we started talking about putting the video in here. And I asked the guy who does it, "Is it possible in this church?" I don't know if you know, but there are 3 sets of windows. You usually see 2, but there's the third one way up here. And there's a set of windows up there. And he said, "Oh yeah, we can do it." He said, "It costs about $10,000. So I started asking people who wanted that, if they had some money they could give. And to make another long story short, it took a while, but the $10,000 came to be about $100,000. First of all, you got way too much light in this room. Don't you dare cut any of those windows off. We like that light, okay? Came in during the week one day, and trustees and I went up there from the outside and blocked off the windows that you don't even know about. You can't see. They're way up there. And the next Sunday, people would start saying, when did you put those windows in? They were there all the time from the time this church was built. But you couldn't see them because there's so much light coming in. So that was one good thing that happened. And little by little, we finally got the video system in. Several people came to me and picked up a hymnal and said, you can take that up if you want to, put the words up if you want, but I'm going to read my hymnal. I'm going to sing from my hymnal. And so the first Sunday, there was a lot of hymnals up. The second Sunday and the third Sunday, singing, and the words are up there. Put the hymnal down. And some people still like the hymnal, and that's okay, because you can see the music. But some got accustomed to that real fast. Don't do unions in the church. Don't cover up the windows. Don't put anything in there. Don't have a rock band, for heaven's sakes. Yeah. And I suggested that, you don't have to go to all these things. We're not going to change what the church looks like. We're just going to do some things that other people want. We're moving into another generation that wants things a little different. Well, we can't afford this. We can't afford that. And I said, let's have a rummage sale. Oh, we're too old. We can't have a rummage sale. Well, some of the younger people, 60, 70 years old, we started, and a few younger than that, but we started a rummage sale. And we did pretty good. I think we made $7,000 the first year. But I had heard about Willowbrook, how it makes millions, thousands of dollars every year. And I said, we can do it. And there were enough people to help. We did it the first year. We took over the rest of the church and stored stuff through the year. And then about the second or third year, I believe it was, we rented a tractor trailer to put out back to start collecting things throughout the year, because some of you so-called snowbirds would leave before we had the rummage sale and wanted to get rid of some stuff. And so we put it out there. To the best of my knowledge, it's still going on. You still having rummage sales here? Yeah. And it's paid off. A lot of good money, because you got rid of that stuff that you no longer needed. We started looking through the church that first year. And I remember one thing, it was a great big fan. Some of you remember, it was about this high and about yay wide. They bought it one year, there was a flood over in Fellowship Hall, and they needed that fan to come in and to dry the carpet out. It hadn't been used since then. That's been about 10 years before the rummage sale. And I said, how about this fan? We never use it. We didn't even know it's there. You don't know what it's for. I said, then it's time to get rid of it. And so we sold that. And so much other stuff that was in the corners of this church, along with so many other good things that you people gave to the church. And we had a successful rummage sale and continue to do that. And then I said, we had Reverend Franklin Green. Some of you remember him. He retired, forced to retire at age 70, and came here and worked for 18 more years as an associate pastor. He was part-time associate pastor by the time I came, and he retired at the age of 92, I believe it was, or 93. And unfortunately, he passed away shortly after that because he fell and broke his hip, or broke his hip and fell. We don't know which way those things go. But I wanted to honor him, and I wanted to raise money for the future for this church, because as we get older and as things go on, and the next generation doesn't really want to flock into the church like we used to. And I said, let's build something that's going to keep this church going, help keep it going. I said, I heard of another church who tried to make their minister $1 million man, and they failed readily. But I said, we all love Franklin. Let's make him $1 million man. Well, money started coming in over the next 2 or 3 years, and when I retired, 8 years ago, in 2011, we had $800,000 towards that $1 million man. And I hoped that you would keep it up. Like a lot of other things that we started, I hoped that you would keep it up. And you kept things up, and not only that, but you kept things going further and further and further, as you still are. Somebody came to visit me a couple years ago, maybe 3 now, and said, I want you to see this. They handed me a letter that we had made Franklin Green $1 million man. And so we have that $1 million set aside, used to help the church when it needs help. Do extra things that you can't do otherwise. It doesn't mean stop giving, but it means being able to do the things more comfortably. So the corpus stays there, and the interest only is used year after year to help do certain things in the church. Well, by the way, I unpacked my bags 13 years ago, and I enjoyed 5 great years here in spite of the don't do this, don't do that. I became your senior pastor and stayed for 5 years, and then decided to retire. And they said, "Why are you retiring at such an early age?" And I said, "I have grandkids to retire to." And they thought, "Well, that's good enough." So I was given permission to retire by most people here. But I thought there's time to enjoy the family, and that Jane and I have done for the last 8 years. We've watched the grandchildren grow. There's only 2 little ones left at home, 3, excuse me, one in Michigan, one in Las Vegas. We went there to see them and to help them grow, watch them grow. And one family moved on to Oregon, and the other family was already living in Michigan. So the 11 children that we retired to help and to watch grow quickly dropped to 2. There are 2 in Las Vegas, but we do see them 5 days a week. We get them off to school and pick them up after school, and when there's no school, we have them all day because the parents are working. And I wouldn't have it any other way, and neither would Jane. But I'm grateful. I don't regret 39 years of ministry. I could have done more. I don't regret the 5 great years I had here at this church. Thanks be to all of you. I do not regret cutting my ministry short, so I spent some time with the family that I didn't throughout those 39 years. Watched 3 kids grow and get married. Was blessed by the opportunity of being the pastor for 2 of our grandchildren this year as they got married, and a great-grandchild who I baptized, and a great-grandson who is coming in March, and I'll probably get the opportunity to baptize him as well. So we have reason to be free, so to speak. As you know, freedom in retirement isn't always free. It means you do a lot of other stuff that you didn't do before. Well, I unpacked my bags and stayed, and I packed again. And by the time I left this church, I gave away another 800 books and a few other things. And we still took too much stuff with us. But we finally, we've been there 2 years before we decided to buy a house and settle in. We were going to stay here. So I said, I'm not going to move all this stuff again. So I packed and packed away things that Jane needed. Okay, it's fine. Things I needed. She said, you really need that? And I said, well, it's important to me. So we moved into a house that luckily had a storage shed in the back of it. So all 12 of my boxes of things that I didn't really need got stuffed into that storage shed. And Jane said about a year ago, when are you going to get rid of all that? I'm sorry to use the word stuff so much, but that's the word we use. When are you going to get rid of all this stuff? I said, you have 4 boxes over here. You have this over here. It's full. You have this over here. When are you going to get rid of some of yours? Well, I need all that. But what do you need those papers from high school? And why do you need those books that you kept? And why do you need this? Why do you need that? So I decided about a year ago to start going through it. And I thought, well, the day will come that I will not be here. And the kids are going to look through those boxes out there in the shed, and they're going to say, why in the world did Dad save all this? What are we going to do with it? I didn't know he saved all that stuff. And I have given written permission to the girls and to Jane that when the time comes, if they're still here and I'm not, they can get rid of all that stuff any way they want to because it's important to me, but not to them. And so I went through the 12 boxes of books in the storage shed. And happy to say today there are no boxes in the storage shed. I got rid of 6. Don't clap yet. You won't clap then. I got rid of 6 boxes through rummage sales, giving to the church, giving to the community, selling at garage sales, whatever I had to do to get rid of them. I only have 6 boxes left. But they're in the garage, they're not in the storage shed. So all of that to say, to go along with the scripture for today. You as a church, through the years, have thrown away all that good stuff that was saved over the years because you decided you didn't need it anymore. And probably tomorrow somebody would look around the campus and say, why are you keeping all this stuff over here? We could use that for another thing. We had so much room after the first rummage sale that we didn't know we had. We didn't have room for anything. We decided one room was big enough to hold classes in. That's how much stuff was in that room. And so it went on. So 40 years of ministry, in spite of all that. You have been a strong church. There have been times when there's things that came along that tried to weaken you, but you didn't give up. You stayed. You said, this is my church, and this is a church where we worship God, and this is where we're going to be in spite of what might happen. Changes, yes, you've had a few. Probably not any more than other churches, unfortunately. But you have kept some of the good stuff. You've introduced new programs. You've kept up with the times that you've continued with. The Bible classes, preaching Christ, witnessing Christ. Things change, yes, but forward-thinking change. It's time to have a rock band. Yeah. It's time to do this. It was time for us to put all this stuff. Another thing, just before I left, I went this beautiful display of stuff. I don't know, some of you will remember they were about this thick. They were cotton stuffed, beautiful pictures of clouds and sun. I can't remember all of it. There are 3 things over there. And I noticed one day that because of dry rot, they were beginning to fall down. So I pointed out to the trustees, I don't see it. I said, look a little closer. Oh, yeah, I see. So finally we took those down because they began to start hanging and looking bad. And people, where did those go? Where did those go? And I showed them because we kept them. We knew people would wonder what happened. So-and-so gave them, we can't get rid of them. Well, who made them? I have no idea. Nobody knew where they came from, so we couldn't get them replaced. We couldn't get them, they weren't salvageable. They were dry rotted. And so once they saw that we had to take them down because of that, they said, fine. And I don't know when this beautiful display went up, but that's been up since I was here. Things like that change because we change. The church changes. If it doesn't change, it looks like an old church is about to fall down and all the stuff around it. So get rid of the good stuff and celebrate the new stuff. Paul was all about that. And that's what Shepherd of the Hill is all about. Listen again to part of that scripture. Paul said, he was a member of the people of Israel, of the tribe of Benjamin, a Hebrew, born of Hebrews, as to the law, a Pharisee, as to zeal, a persecutor of the church, as to righteousness under the law, blameless. I was a man who was for everything that should be done according to the Jewish law. But I gave away all that stuff, and I became a Christian. Amen.
Please join me in a time of prayer for this church. As we pray, please respond to each petition with the words, "We give you thanks, O Lord." Please join your hearts with mine in prayer. Eternal and loving God, today we give thanks to you for your goodness through all the years of worship and witness in this place.